All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Introduction to Meditation for Daily Goo Connect. I am Aaron Hulburt. I'm a group fitness instructor with University Recreation. Recently graduated from the school as well. Nice seeing everyone today. If anyone's having trouble hearing me or whatever, just give me a heads up and I'll try to move closer to my mic. And so, what we're going to cover today is how to meditate, basically. Not so much different, I guess you could say, philosophies or styles, but just how to basically set up into a basic meditation, something we can use from whatever we practice. So, first thing is just where do we want to do it at? Basically, we want to do somewhere quiet. It can be in our bedroom. We can even meditate outside as well. Ideally, somewhere where there's not a lot going on that can disrupt our concentration. And now that doesn't mean it has to be completely dead silent. Sometimes somewhere outside nice, like by a stream or with some soft noise in the background can be great as well. Otherwise, a quiet room. In the Chinook building, they have meditation rooms as well. If anyone's ever been over there, didn't know about that. Um, as far as seating postures, there's a few ways we could sit on the floor to meditate. If we're seated on the floor, ideally we want to sit on something like a cushion. I just have this big pillow right here that I like to sit on. It's round and green. I like to call it my lily pad, but something like that, maybe about 2 or 3 inches in thickness, fairly dense, so we're not hurting as we sit. If we're going to sit in a chair, ideally we want something that is flat and with a straight back and no arms. We don't want to lean on the chair, try to use it to support ourselves. And then when we sit in the chair, we want to just have our feet flat on the floor, hands in our lap, similar to if we're seated on the floor. And if we're seated on the cushion, we can sit cross-legged. I'm sure we're all fairly familiar with this. Let's see, I don't have a ton of space. So if we're seated on the floor, we just sit. Okay, my face isn't visible, but basically we want to sit up cross-legged, and we can do it like this. There's also something known as a half lotus pose, which involves placing one foot on our leg, and then and obviously these lotus poses can be a little tough if the flexibility is not quite there. I can't quite do them myself. And then if we can get both feet on each opposing calf, that's the full lotus pose. That one takes a good deal of flexibility. And then as far as when we're seated, we want to make sure we're sitting up with a straight back. Our hands, we can have them resting on our knees, have them cupped in our lap, or just resting in our lap as they normally would be if we were sitting. And then as far as when we want to meditate, honestly, anytime that's convenient for us. It can be first thing in the morning. It can be right before we go to bed. That's like when I usually try to meditate myself. Ideally, we don't want to go into it feeling rushed, like we have a half hour between two different work shifts and feel like we have to rush through it, or we don't have enough time to really relax and settle in. So ideally, maybe just have like an hour at least, just so you can position yourself, get situated, and then not feel like you have to rush through your meditation or rush into the state, even if you're not going to meditate for a full hour. And then as far as why we meditate, obviously there's a few reasons why, and there's various philosophical and religious traditions as to what the purpose of it is. Put simply though, for something like mindfulness and kind of how I tend to practice it, it's to develop a greater awareness of our emotional state, and kind of, rather than turn away from reality or enter some weird trance where we're above all our our worldly problems, we turn straight into it and develop a much greater awareness of our feelings, and maybe develop some insight as to maybe why we're feeling them. As far as when we sit as well, we want to make sure we're comfortable. We don't want to wear any tight clothing. Ideally, we wear loose clothing. If you have like a belt on, maybe loosen it up first. We want to avoid creating any sort of physical sensations that can distract us from when we meditate. Um, and then the same goes for our seating posture as well. We want to make sure we can sit upright, nice and tall, not feel any discomfort when we hold that position for a long period of time. And let's see. Yeah, and basically, and we want to make sure we can be relaxed in our posture. Obviously, we're not going to be so relaxed we just fold over and like lose all muscular control. But we want to make sure that we can maintain our posture without any discomfort nagging at our attention and making it difficult to concentrate on our meditation. So I figured we'd all get some practice this morning by doing a quick meditation. It'll be 10 minutes, a good way to introduce ourselves to it. So if we have anything making a lot of noise or we need to close the door, we want to do that really quick and then seat ourselves as we wish. We can either do it on the floor or in our chair that we're sitting in. So I'll give everyone here a minute to get situated here really quick. It'll be a quick 10-minute meditation, enough to kind of ease into our meditative state. If we're just starting out with meditation, 15 minutes to half an hour is a good starting point. And then as we practice more and more, we can lengthen the time to like a half hour to an hour. Obviously, like many things in life, these meditation gets better with practice. And we don't want to bite off more than we can chew right from the get-go here. So I'm going to get my timer up. It'll be 10 minutes here. I don't know if my little alarm here will be audible over the stream, so but I'll call out when we're finished up here. So when we're ready, let's get into our seated posture, sit up nice and tall, place our hands in our lap or wherever we're going to go. And when we begin our meditation, we'll want to either close our eyes or really soften our gaze, let our eyelids drift down and kind of focus on a spot a few feet in front of us here. The key is not to try to look at anything. Basically, we want to avoid any visual stimulus as we do this. And so whether we do that eyes closed or not, that's up to us. Anyways, when we're ready, I'll start the countdown timer. And so let's close our eyes here. Try to let our shoulders relax, bring them down and back, sit up, make sure we're sitting up nice and tall. Let our jaw relax as well. We don't want to clench our teeth together. And begin just gently breathing through our nose, not trying to control the pace of our breathing, just letting it go in and out at whatever pace it wants to go. And as we breathe, we want to focus on the movement of our breath, maybe pick a point in our nostrils and think of that breath moving in and out as one continuous movement, not so much separate phases. Attention drifting away from our breathing, that's okay. Just refocus on it when we're able to. Whether it's physical or a thought suddenly coming into our heads, we always want to maintain our focus on our breath. As we sit here breathing, maybe try to narrow our awareness to just our body. How does the How do we feel sitting on the floor or a chair or whatever we're seated on? How big are our breaths? Are we inhaling more or exhaling more? As we sit here, also just observe our thoughts. Just let them flow through our mind, maybe like fog drifting by or bubbles drifting by us, existing for a minute and popping out of existence. As we continue to breathe, hopefully our breath becomes more relaxed, the pace slows down, maybe our breathing becomes more shallow. As we continue to breathe, try to relax, find stillness in our posture. So we can, that was 10 minutes right there, so we can gently come out of our meditation. So oftentimes when we meditate and we're trying to focus on our breathing, we kind of discover just how active our minds are. And even something like 5 minutes can feel like an eternity with just how much stuff's racing through our minds at any point. There's different types of meditation traditions have terms for this, and this is partly why we focus on our breath. You know, it's something that's constant, something that's with us. We don't need something to know where our breath's at. And it's a useful starting point too when we're first learning to meditate. And over time, what we want to learn to do is not let our attention be sidetracked by all our thoughts and enter this endless spiral of thinking about what it is going through our minds. Even when I meditate, thoughts will drift into my mind, and I still try to keep attention on my breath. I kind of imagine it like looking at a tree out in the distance and fog is rolling past, the tree being the breath, the fog being whatever it is distracting you. As one kind of analogy I found that's helped me sort of imagine the ultimate goal here. And the ultimate goal is to, at least for this type of meditation, obviously there's many different traditions, but for basic mindfulness meditation is basically, let's see, how do we put this? Basically to develop a better awareness of our thoughts and our feelings, overcoming, kind of grief and sorrow and negative emotions, which, obviously in these times, I'm sure everybody has something like that going on. And then also just developing a calmness and stillness of our mind and not being perturbed constantly by the events and everything that are going on in our lives. We're not trying to hit some weird trance or higher level of consciousness or develop telepathy or anything like that, or close ourselves off from what's going on around us. That's not the goal. And at least for mindfulness meditation, we're trying to turn directly into what it is affecting us, not ignore it, but looking at it full on, and often it's common to find ourselves, maybe really churning up stuff that we've been ignoring or that has been lingering under the surface for a while. And as I said, this gets better with practice. Over time, we'll learn to develop that calmness a lot quicker, be better able to observe our thoughts and what it is, that's afflicting us, and maybe come up with some stuff that maybe we've been ignoring or kind of putting on the proverbial back burner for too long here. Let's see. Oh, it looks like I've gone to about 20 minutes. So I guess, does anyone have any questions or anything like that? If anyone's still on. Or let's see. Yeah, Jessica, I don't know if I can still take questions or whatever. Or if anyone has the ability to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has any questions or comments, if they want to just type them in the chat and then you can read them that way.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, and if anybody wants to further once I'm reading on the subject, there's a really good book I've read called Mindfulness in Plain English. It came out back in the 70s, I believe, and has had several reprints since, but it's a very good book that, as the name implies, I just sent that. As the name implies, uh, explains meditation, what it's for, how to do it, and in plain language, nothing super crazy or esoteric. It was a really useful resource for me when I first started working on it. But yeah, I'm glad so far. It seems like everyone liked this presentation so far. Um, Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, I got to admit, well, I've never hosted this many people at once. This is kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm glad everyone liked it. Yeah, as I said, I'll stay on here for a bit and see if anyone's got any questions. If anyone wants to follow up with me, I mean, my email is just first name dot last name at wsu.edu. So other than that, yeah, have a good day, everyone. Let's see.